Hello, welcome everybody that's joining us. My name is Emma Greenhill. I'm the Careers Assistant at Long Road. If you can just make sure that you're all muted for me. We will be recording this meeting, so if you don't want your name shown on the screen, you might want to go into your settings and edit that now, just to warn you all. And we will get started. So we have Jane here from Project Trust. Jane, do you want to make a start?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. As Miss said, my name is Jane and I work for Project Trust. So some of you may well have heard of Project Trust before, but for those of you who haven't, we are an educational charity specialising in long-term volunteering in Africa, Asia and Latin America. So long-term volunteering for young people just like yourselves. You are at that point in your education where you're probably being asked quite a bit, what do you want to do whenever you leave school? Now you might know exactly what you want to do, you might have it all mapped out. If you're anything like I was, and probably the majority of young people, you'll have an idea of what you're interested in. And you might be thinking about different things. Perhaps you're thinking about going to university or into further education. Maybe an apprenticeship has cropped up or going into employment. Perhaps you've considered taking a gap year. But most likely you find thinking about your future quite overwhelming. That's okay. There are so many options out there. So it's okay to feel a little bit anxious when you're planning your future. So give yourselves a break. Take a deep breath, take a step back and think about what it is that you're interested in and how you want to mould that future. So you may well, as I said, have considered taking a gap year. A gap year is definitely not for everyone, but it may well be for some of you sitting here today. So why might you want to take a gap year? Why might you want to take some time out after school before you go on to do whatever it is you want to do? This was definitely my motivation, to take a break from formal education. And I really stress the formal education there. A gap year doesn't have to be and shouldn't be about taking a break from learning. You'll still be learning, you'll just be doing that in a very different way. As you want to think about how many years you'll actually have been in formal education for by the time you leave school. 13 or 14 years is a long, long time to be coming to school, following that routine, hopefully doing what your teachers are asking you. So you may well think that you are due a bit of time out. It's a really fantastic opportunity to discover new skills and interests. So there's a wealth of weird and wonderful musical instruments, dances, games out there just waiting for you to discover. You will most likely come home with a new hobby. Provided you plan it and you structure it, a gap year looks fantastic on your CV and on your UCAS form. In fact, employers and universities actually endorse structured gap years because of the skills which you're going to develop. So it will really help you stand out in comparison to your peers. Definitely a chance to get out of your local area and explore the world. So see things that you never imagined you would see. And experience other cultures firsthand. So rather than just watching the TV, you'll actually be living it, gaining an understanding of different communities overseas. You will definitely challenge yourself and explore that potential. As I said, a gap year isn't for everyone. So you already kind of challenge yourself even by considering it. It's not always going to be easy. There will be days where you're thinking, what on earth am I doing? But you will surprise yourself every single day as well. So those are some of the reasons why you might want to take a gap year. But this is your time, this is your year. So think about what you want to get out of that. Don't just doss around in front of the television or partying for a year. It will be fun at the time, but you won't have anything to show for it at the end. So do your research, speak to your teachers, your careers advisors, get onto Google and think about what it is that you're interested in. Is it that you want to learn how to cook different cuisines? Is it that you want to do a ski season or perhaps water sports? Is it that you want to work with animals? There are so many organisations out there that can support you to plan your gap year. Whilst you're conducting your research, you will most likely come across Project Trust. So why might you want to take that gap year with Project Trust? We are the only organisation to offer long-term placements. So all of our volunteers are overseas for either 12 months or 8 months. That's a whole year or 8 months spent living and working in one community. I want you to think about why we might offer those long-term placements rather than just a couple of weeks or a few months. And to put it into context, if you imagine an exchange student coming to Long Road Sixth Form for 3 months from January to March. So think about what the weather would be like, how you'd all be feeling in school. You've just returned after Christmas, perhaps a little bit grumpy because you spent too much money. You're back to school, you're perhaps prepping for mocks and coursework. The weather's going to be a little bit dark, a little bit wet, a little bit cold and miserable. That exchange student is not going to experience everything which our wonderful country has to offer. All the different seasons, all the different festivals. Think about everything which happens in your area. And I stress in a normal year, certainly not the year that we've had just passed. But if that student came to the UK for a year or 8 months, they would get to see everything. They would get a proper understanding and really immerse themselves into a new culture, become part of that culture. So habits and customs which seemed initially alien would become second nature. It's also a really good opportunity to learn a language. So you might already have a keen interest in languages. You may already be studying them. But the best way to develop those skills is to speak that language as often as you can. So spending a year or 8 months living and working in one community, those language skills are going to develop exponentially. We've got volunteers who return home fluent in Spanish, in French, in Mandarin, Wolof, so languages which you'll be familiar with, and then perhaps languages which you might not have heard of before. Sounds a little bit corny, but you will build lasting friendships. So friends within your local community, friends of all different ages and from all different backgrounds, and also friends with other Project Trust volunteers. And those friendships really do last a lifetime. It's a chance to share your skills. So you might be interested in sports, music, dance, drama. Like Emily here in this picture, you might be an avid baker. Emily's also a really incredible photographer as well. But you can share your skills and have that cultural exchange. You also speak English. English in itself is an incredibly valuable skill which you can share during your placement. Again, sounds a little bit cheesy. You are not going to change the world in a year or 8 months, but you will absolutely make a difference within those communities you're working in and within to those individuals you're working with. And I can guarantee that they will have an impact on you. Take some time to travel. So all of our volunteers get at least 6 weeks holiday. So that's a chance to explore the country you're in and your local community, but also, if restrictions allow, travel into bordering countries as well. But you'll be traveling as a local, not as a tourist. So you'll get to go off the beaten track. You will absolutely gain in confidence, in independence, your resilience, team working skills, leadership skills, your awareness, when you think about writing your CV or your personal statement, you will be able to evidence those transferable skills in abundance, and those will actually dominate your time out. Your gap year will dominate any interviews going forward. It's pretty incredible for a young person to make the decision to take a whole year or 8 months out after they leave school. So those are some of the benefits of having a long-term placement. But what else makes Project Trust just a little bit unique? Our experience. So we started in 1967, so that's before NASA put a man on the moon. In 1967, 3 volunteers went to Ethiopia. So since then, over 8,000 volunteers have travelled to 67 different countries around the world. So we've definitely grown since those first 3 volunteers in Ethiopia. We only send around 250 volunteers overseas each year, so that's a pretty small number. And the reason we do that is quite simple. It's so that we can get to know every single one of our volunteers. We don't have thousands and thousands, so our volunteers are very much individuals. They're not just a number in the system. It means that we can match our volunteers to a project overseas, and we can support them properly as well. Our location is pretty unique as well. So we're based on the Isle of Coll in Scotland. You might have heard of it before, possibly not. It's where I'm speaking to you from today. So off the west coast of Scotland, the Isle of Coll is 13 miles long and 3 miles wide. We've got 23 pretty stunning beaches, one of them behind me today, a population of just under 200 people. Why on earth am I talking to you about a remote island off the west coast of Scotland? It does actually play a huge part in every Project Trust volunteer's journey. So what does that journey look like? It starts with heading over to your website and completing an online application form. From there, we'll be in touch to invite you to book onto a selection course. We don't just want to get your application in and say, right, okay, brilliant, good luck, we'll see you in a year. We want to meet you. So selection gives us an opportunity to get to know you, to find out what makes you tick, and that allows us to match you to a project overseas. It also gives you a chance to get to know Project Trust, to meet the staff team, to ask lots and lots of questions about the projects and the countries which we have on offer, and to figure out if Project Trust is the right organisation for you. Our selection courses would normally take place up in the Isle of Coll. They would normally be residential courses. At the moment, we're running these online, but really hope to reinstate that face-to-face format really soon. And that word selection does sound a little bit daunting, but I promise you it's not. Over 80% of young people who attend a selection course are offered a place overseas. So if you do decide to go overseas with Project Trust, you will hopefully come back up to the Isle of Coll for a training course. So about a month before you head off, you'll come back up to the Isle of Coll, or perhaps take part in a training course online. So what is training? It's a chance for you to meet your partner. So that's the person who you will be going overseas with. We don't send you overseas on your own. So they will share in all the highs and all the lows as well. And you really will build a lifelong friendship with your Project Trust partner. We'll also get you equipped for your role. So whatever kind of work you're going to be undertaking, we'll give you specific training for that role. And you'll also learn a lot more about your country. So any cultural do's and don'ts. So what type of work could you be doing overseas? Teaching projects, and under that teaching umbrella we have got a wide range of projects. So you could be working with really young children, or children in a primary setting or in a secondary setting, or with young adults as well. That could be as a lead teacher or as a classroom assistant. You could be TESOL teaching, so teaching English to speakers of other languages, or it might be more subject specific. So we've got projects in math, science, ICT teaching, and drama, art, music and sport as well. You may be more interested in a youth development project, so maybe working with street connected youths, or in a community centre, or working with children or young people with physical or mental disabilities, or you could be working in an outreach centre, and we've also got an outdoor education project as well. So again, a huge range of different projects. It doesn't just stop with the role which you are undertaking. You will be actively encouraged to set up your own activities. So whatever you are interested in, be as creative as you like and set up your own clubs and societies, either at the project you're at, so the school or the community centre or the youth centre, or within your wider community as well. So Archie set up a community football team, and that football team is still playing after Archie has left his project. You might be interested at this point in volunteering with Project Trust, but you're probably thinking, okay, but what does it cost and how do I pay for it? Project Trust is a charity, so all of our volunteers fundraise for their time overseas. At this point, I'm always prepared for a sharp intake of breath. These figures do look large, and they are large figures, but please bear with me because they do represent huge value for money. So our current targets for 12 months, £6,950, and for the shorter programme, which is around about 8 months, £6,250. Now, as I said, those are large figures, but this is what's included for those totals. So what's actually provided? Your training course and a debriefing course as well. So I've spoken to you about training. Debriefing takes place once you return from your volunteering placement. So you come back up to the Isle of Col, you meet up with other Project Trust volunteers and the staff team as well, and share your experiences and your stories. May seem like an obvious one, but your flights are included. So we will fly you out to your project, hopefully in a plane slightly bigger than this, and we'll also bring you home again as well. Comprehensive medical insurance. So we really, really hope you don't need to use it, but if you do, we've got the Rolls Royce of medical insurance. Your accommodation is included. So it could be something very, very rural, could be something very, very urban, or anything in between. We'll have those discussions with you to talk about what kind of environment you would feel comfortable, you would be interested in living in. So whether it's an apartment or perhaps getting used to sleeping in a hammock on the beach or on a tea plantation, we have got a whole range of different types of accommodation. You'll also receive a small in-country allowance, so equivalent to what a local person doing the same job as you would earn. It's enough to buy the essentials, but not the luxuries. If you are interested, there's about 30 quid in this image here, so not very much. Plus, we will support you right the way through your volunteer journey. So whilst you're overseas, we'll support you with a 3-tier system. So alongside your Project Trust partner, who you'll get to know obviously very, very well, you'll have your project host. So they'll be your main point of contact for day-to-day queries. They're a respected member of the local community, most likely working at your project as well. So perhaps a head teacher of the school if you're working in a school. You'll also have your country representative. They'll be based in country in a major city. They will meet you at the airport, get you acclimatised and get you settled at your project as well. And they'll be on hand throughout your time overseas too. Last but by no means least, you've got your country coordinator. So they're based on the Isle of Col. You'll work with them very closely during your training course. and they will come out to visit you at your project as well. Plus, we will support you through your fundraising journey. So you'll have a dedicated volunteer fundraising officer who will be on hand to answer any of the questions that you have. You'll also receive training on your selection course. So working with the fundraising team, they'll help you develop your fundraising strategy. We also hold nationwide fundraising meetings, so an opportunity to meet up and chat to other fundraising volunteers. At the moment, these meetings are being held online as well, but that actually means that you can meet all fundraising volunteers up and down the country. And we do have over 50 years experience. The fact that over 8,000 volunteers have fundraised and gone overseas already is testament to that support that we offer. We've also got a mentoring programme where we can match you with a Project Trust return volunteer. So they can provide hints and tips for fundraising, but also motivate you and inspire you by sharing their experience of their time overseas. We've also got means-tested bursary support available. We believe that any young person with the motivation and the desire to want to complete a long-term volunteering placement should be able to do so regardless of their financial circumstances. So that's everything that's included in those totals. But where in the world can you actually volunteer? So at this stage, I should say that we repatriated, brought back all of our volunteers right at the start of the COVID pandemic. We haven't had volunteers overseas this year, and we are relaunching our programme in August, September time. So really excited to be working with young people again. So to give you an idea of where in the world we have projects, in 2020 we had projects in Africa, in Botswana, in Ghana, Malawi. Most of our volunteers live around Lake Malawi, which is a really incredible expanse of water, really beautiful. Project in Namibia, primary school teaching with quite a focus on kind of PE and art as well. Projects in Senegal. If you're interested in French language learning, you might want to think about Senegal as a country for you. As you can imagine, South Africa is our largest country programme, so we've got the whole range of projects in South Africa. Science and maths teaching, ICT as well, in Zambia, and teaching projects in Morocco too. In Asia and Oceania, projects in Cambodia, a lot of youth development projects in Cambodia, in China. So a real mix in China. You're kind of faced with a very westernized country, but by volunteering in China in our smaller projects, you can really get a sense of those kind of local communities and the traditions of those communities. Projects in India, so youth development and teaching projects as well. In Japan, we've got teaching projects. Malaysia, again, a real melting pot of different cultures and religions in Malaysia, a really incredible country. In Myanmar as well, we've got teaching projects. Nepal, if you really want to get away from it all, Nepal is pretty rural, but pretty amazing too. And if you fancy visiting, say, Everest Base Camp during your holidays, you might want to think about Nepal as the country for you. In the Solomon Islands as well, we've got teaching projects, and in Thailand, we've got TESOL teaching projects. If Spanish language learning is something that you're interested in, then perhaps Latin America is something to think about. So projects in Chile, where a lot of our volunteers stay with host families. So that's a different experience again, and also projects in Honduras. So if you are interested in volunteering with Project Trust and really challenging yourself and exploring that potential, pop onto our website. There is a lot more information on there. You can see what our return volunteers have been up to, lots of great blog posts on there. You can also complete our online application form there too, and we will be in touch to get you booked onto a selection course. We have selection courses running right throughout the summer, and we schedule them the majority of the time during school holidays, so you should be able to find one that suits you. We also run monthly information sessions. So these are online and take place on the first Wednesday of every month. You can find more details of those on our website, but they take place in the evening. So if you do, your parents or your carers, or perhaps some of your friends are interested, please do log on to those and meet more of the staff team. And please also check out our social media sites as well, and follow us there. By scanning this QR code, this will take you directly to our Contact Us page. So if you've got any questions at all, please do feel free to ask them in this forum, or pop onto our website and you can ask them there. I really do hope to see some applications and hopefully see some faces up in the Isle of Coll very, very soon. And if there are any questions, please do fire away.
I don't think anyone's got any questions. Last call for questions. If not, we will end this session.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us.